Hello there, my lovely jewelry makers. I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these cute pumpkin wirework rings. Now they're of course perfect for Halloween, that's right around the corner, but you can also use them any time of year really. And they also match perfectly with the pendant that I previously made, and you can even make earrings out of these little ones, so you can make a whole pumpkin set if you want to. Now if you're interested in either of the rings from this tutorial, I do have them available for sale in my shop. Link will be in the description box down below. But if you just want to learn how you can make one for yourself, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, the wire that I'm using is a regular round silver coated copper wire, and the first gauge here is a 1mm. This is the base wire for the ring band, and then I've got a 0.8mm. This is going to be to capture the cabochon with. A 0.4mm will be the weaving wire for the ring band, and finally the 0.3mm will be the weaving wire for the cabochon. Now of course we also can't forget we do need the cabochon that we want to capture. I'm using an oval orange calcite gemstone cabochon that measures about 3 by 2 centimeters. Now of course you can use different sizes and shapes. I just prefer to keep it small because it is a ring that we're making. As for the tools, of course we need some flush cutters so we can cut our wire, some tweezers and nose pliers to help manipulate the wire. I'm using my 6-step bell making pliers for any loops we need to make, and then of course a ring mandrel to get the right size and shape of the ring band. So make sure you check out the description box below the video. There's going to be the full material list and useful links. Otherwise, let's get it all ready and let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is of course capture the cabochon and kind of turn it into that pumpkin that we want on the ring. Now I'm not going to show you how to do that in this tutorial because I already have a previous video where I show how you can do that, and it's the exact same technique, just a few differences. So what I'm just going to do is go over those differences now. First of all, because it's obviously a smaller stone we're capturing, I'm using shorter lengths of the 0.8mm wire, so I'm using 4 lengths of about 30 centimeters. And then for the weaving wire, I'm using the 0.3mm instead of the 0.4mm that I show in that video. And also because we're using this for a ring, we don't need a bail at the top here. So what I'm going to do is basically take all of these lengths, and instead of using 2 of these lengths for the bail, I'm just going to bend them all down like I show in that video as well, instead of having 2 of them reserved for the bail, and they will then all be used for the decoration. And then of course you just want to add the decoration however you want to in the same way that I showed you in that tutorial. And you still also want 2 lengths on the back here, and otherwise you just want to finish off all the decoration on the pumpkin here as well until we then have this ready. Then we just need to make our ring band. For the ring band we need 2 lengths of our 1mm of about 15 centimeters each, and for the weaving wire I'm using this 0.4mm. I'm leaving it attached to the reel, that way we have minimum waste stitch. So we then need to weave a section around the base wires here using the weaving wire, and I'm just going to start with one at a time because first of all we just need to attach it. And what I also want to do is leave a pretty decent length of tail of the weaving wire, just maybe about 20 centimeters or so. And then I also want to start in from the base wire just a few centimeters so we have that to be able to make loops with. Now what I'm going to do is just wrap this around once to attach it, and then I'm straight away going to get into the weave. So I'm going to take the other length, place that above the first one there, then I'm going to go over the top of both of the base wires, make sure my wraps are nice and tight, come up between the 2 and use that to push down, and then around the top one by itself. And now what I also like to do is just use my pliers to help make sure my wraps are nice and tight. And this is then one full round of the weave, and the weave that I'm doing is the diagonal wire weave. You can do a different weave that uses 2 base wires. I have loads of tutorials on my channel. I have a whole playlist I'll leave a link to in the description box down below. But what I'm going to do is basically keep doing this. So around the bottom one, around both of them, and then around the top one. And that's another round of the weave. And we basically just need the weave across the base wires here. That's the length we need for the ring band. Now I've ended up weaving about 5 centimeters here. Of course that will depend on the size of ring that you want. So what I'm going to do is start to shape this around the ring band. So just place it and then start to bring the ends all the way around until they start to overlap here. And now as you can see, we do have a gap between the weave, which is what we want. So regardless what size you want your ring to be, we need to make sure we have a gap here between the 2 ends of the weave. And of course you can also cut off the end from the reel. Just make sure again you leave a decent length of tail. But then from here we need to start adding our loops to the ends. So I'm just going to work on one end at a time. I'm going to separate out the base wires, and then I just like to bring the other ones in between them because they can be a little bit in the way of each other. But then what I'm going to do is take my 6-step bell making pliers. You can also use round nose pliers. I just like using these because I know exactly what size I'm going to get, and it's going to be the same for all of them. Now I'm going to use the 3rd smallest step here. Of course, again, that will depend on what you need for yours. And I basically want to add a loop into all these wires, just doing one at a time. So I want to get my pliers all the way down to where the weave ends, and then bring the end around the pliers. So we end up getting a full circle, a bit like that. And I just bring it all the way around. So I can go to the other side and repeat the same thing. I'm placing my pliers on the wire, that same step, and then I just bring the end all the way around. So I create a full circle. So it looks a little something like that. Then I just want to flip to the other end and basically do the same thing. So you can just get these tails a little bit out of the way and then separate out these two base wires as well. So we can get our pliers in between them. And again, I'm using that same size. Bring the wire all the way around and repeat with the final one as well. We then need to get rid of the excess lengths of the base wire here. So I want to take my flush cutters and go in and cut off the circle, basically just where it starts to overlap itself. So the first one, cut it right down here. So that when I take my tweezer nose pliers and basically flatten it down, you can see it meets up with itself just perfectly, and we still have that full circle. And you just want to do the same with the rest of the lengths. So now we have the loops in place. We have this little platform, as you can see, that's going to end up being attached to the pumpkin that we've finished already, and it's going to be attached on the back here. And you can see that little platform of the loops is going to sit right on the back of that pumpkin. So that's what we need to do now. So first of all, I'm just going to start with the ring band itself, because I've left these lengths of the weaving wire, so I'm just going to keep using those. And what I want to do is start to work my way around and also attach some of these loops together. So first of all, I'm going to bring my wires into the middle here. Just take the other one as well, and that's going to be the starting point. And basically what I want to do is now coil around a single wire that's forming a loop there, working my way to the point where the two loops from opposite sides meet up. So I'm just going to be bringing this around, and of course you can then grab the end and then go through the loop as well, and just make sure to avoid any kinks. And like I said, I'm just working my way all the way over to the point where the two opposite loops there meet up. And then once I'm there, I'm going to take the end of the wire here and come up through the other loop and just pull the wire through so that I can actually wrap over the top of both of them at the same time. So I'm just going down through the first one there. And you can see, tighten that, that's going to go over the top of both of them. And I'm just going to do that a few times so we get a few wraps and securing it nicely in place. And after that, I'm going to just go back to the same loop where we were wrapping before, where we started out basically, and just wrap around that again. So I keep coiling the wire around this same loop, and we just cut onto the other loop in the meantime. And I'm going to work my way over to the side where we started out basically, but not all the way. I want to stop where, when I add this to the cabochon, the loop here starts to meet up with that inner frame on the back. So that's where I want to end up with my weaving wire for now. So just to show you where I've ended up with my wraps over here, if I just bring in the pumpkin and I place the platform of the ring band here where it's going to sit, you can see where the wraps end. They meet up nicely with that inner frame like I mentioned. Now once you've done that, what I'm going to do is flip this around and take the other weaving wire and basically just repeat the exact same thing on the other side here as well. So now we're in this position here on both sides. We need to start attaching the ring band to the pumpkin. So as I said, we've ended up with these two weaving wires, so we can attach them to the inner frame there on the back. You can just start with one at a time. Just place the ring band where it's going to end up sitting here on the back, and then I'm going to take the end of my weaving wire and basically want to do a connection point just like we did between the two loops when we attach those. So the wire is coming from inside the loop up and over, and then I want to come underneath the frame on the cabochon, and I also want to bring the end of the wire back up through the loop there. So if you can do it all in one go, brilliant. Just grab onto the end there with my pliers and then just pull the whole length through, and you're going to have another wrap right there, but connecting the loop to the frame and making sure that our wraps are not overlapping each other. And of course we want to do this a couple of times just like we did with the loops. So just come underneath the frame again and up through the loop and pull it all the way through. Now obviously it's up to you how many wraps you want to do here, but I'm just going to come underneath the frame again, and this time I'm not going to come up through the loop. So instead I'm just coming up right on the other side of the frame, so basically up in between the frame and the loop, because I now just want to be wrapping around the wire that's on the cabochon there. So I'm swapping from wrapping around the loop and then doing both of them, and then I'm swapping out to wrapping around the wire on the frame. So now that's in position, I just like to go to the other one because you can see that's still loose. If we attach both of them, it's all a little bit more solid and easier to work with. This is the same principle. Hold it in place, and then I want to bring the end of my wire underneath the frame and back up through the same loop there and pull it through. So again, we connect the loop to the frame, now in the opposite corner, and then just repeat that. Pull that nice and tight, and then this time again I'm going to go underneath the frame, but not up through the loop. It'll come out right on the other side of the frame there. So again, we swap over to just wrapping around the frame now, and we're now in the same position on both ends. So with either one, I'm just going to now keep wrapping around that frame, so basically coiling around it one wrap at a time, and I'm going to work my way from where the wire is now to the other side of the ring band, basically where the other loop is that we haven't wrapped yet. It's the same on the other side. This one I'm going to be wrapping around the frame that's kind of underneath the ring band. You can see, work your way to the other side of the ring band so we meet up with where this other loop is that we haven't wrapped yet. When we then reach the other loop, I'm then going to take the end, come underneath the frame again, but then this time come up through the loop, so that when we tighten this and we repeat, we're going to then wrap around both of the wires and then make another connection point. So just do that a few times, and after that I'm going to then switch to wrapping around the wire that's forming the loop here. So basically kind of finishing off the way that we started out, and then also just making sure everything becomes more seamless. So I'm now just going to keep wrapping around the loop here, and we do have that connection point, but all you want to do is basically just skip that and then continue wrapping on the other side of that until you get all the way into the midpoint here. So more or less all the lengths of wires have been wrapped, and of course you want to do the same thing with the other end as well. Then all that's left to do is get rid of the excess here. So I've done my final wrap, and I'm just going to go in, cut off the excess, making sure there's just a short little tail left, and then I take my Tweezernose pliers, and you can feel that little end. What we want to do is make sure to get rid of that. So I'm just going to push it in, basically continue the wrap. So this end of the wire goes in between the ring band and the cabochon, so it's not going to catch or scratch on your skin when you're wearing it. Of course, just repeat the same with the other end. Now if at any point you find that you don't have quite enough of the weaving wire to reach all the way around here doing all these wraps, or if it's broken along the way, that's not a big deal. All you can do is finish off the end in the same way that I just showed you, and then just attach a new one and continue weaving. But otherwise, once you got rid of all the excess wires, you have your cute pumpkin ring finished and ready to wear. A final thing I just want to mention is that these small pumpkins are also perfect for if you just want a small pendant, or even if you want to make them into earrings, because what you can just do before you use all these wires at the top to make all the decoration, you can use one of them to basically make a wrap loop with, and then that'll be your little bail, either for a small pendant or a pair of earrings. And then of course you wouldn't have to attach the ring band either. So I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial for this cute pumpkin wire work ring that's perfect for Halloween, but I think of course you can use it any time of year. And like I mentioned, the tutorial for the pumpkin itself will be in the description box below the video. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.